Lucifer, what is your problem?
Just that, sir.
Okay.
I'm a Christian, sir.
I'm pure and virtuous and wholesome and innocent. How can you say anything bad about me?
Sir, you need to be born again.
I am born again.
Now, did you just say that you are Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Say that again. Lucifer is a pure, holy,
Virtuous.
virtuous. Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
Oh, man, this is great. I'm going to put this on the internet.
Oh,
Amen.
God bless you,
Amen.
brother.
Because that's exactly what the Shriners and Masons teach, is that Lucifer is light.
Satanism is not, like Christianity, a way of gathering sheep together in one place. We feel that the best way to change the world into a satanic arena is by having strong individuals in different areas do their own individual work. So by joining the Church of Satan, you enter into the possibility of going into the higher echelons of the Church of Satan. But one of the main misconceptions is that the Church of Satan is a physical building where black-robed people come to congregate. The Church of Satan is an idea more than a building. It is a large network of people internationally who are committed to the ideas of Satanism. We have no regard for the masses. Satanism is a religion for the elite. It is a religion for leaders. It's a religion for competent people. It's not a religion for anyone who wants to be a Satanist. We don't say welcome
The homeless,
to
the handicapped, those with
I don't
multiple
care.
sclerosis
I don't
need not
want the
apply.
homeless, the handicapped.
The
That's
people
your
in
job.
The homeless you don't want to shelter?
No, I don't want to shelter people who can't take care of themselves.
That produces more of the same.
It's social Darwinism again. In the animal kingdom, you preserve what is strong.
Hang on.
You give more food to the stronger animal.
Until humans
You don't feed
intervene
the
and start
weaker
killing.
one. It's disgustingly outrageous
Zena.
that you would help these weak people who are draining our resources, who are causing so many problems. We could be doing positive things in the world.
Zena, I want to ask you.
These weaklings are taking away all of our energy and resources. And you've decided to help them. That's disgusting to me.
Of course, Rihanna is in the building.
Why is your hand over your eyes?
Because I'm a devil worshiper, what are you talking about? Because I'm a devil worshiper, what are you talking about?
Why is your hand over your eyes?
Because I'm a devil worshiper, what are you talking about?
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it's the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end
What was your bargain?
to get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
With the with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And in this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
These groups of Satanists were comprised of an eclectic array of people from every walk of life and every social institution on the face of the earth, including politics. There were lawyers within Satanism, judges, bankers, people in the media, people in the military and police. Their ranks are, believe it or not, filled much more than you would even like to believe or think about. How many police and military people are directly involved with satanic grottos. Entertainment, even sports, medicine, doctors, and teachers. Many teachers I saw, and especially college level, university level teachers were present at satanic rituals. There's a reason for this. They're putting their people into point positions of power. They're working them into all of the social institutions. That's how they get their bidding done. That's how they advance their group agenda.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Had we sold our soul to the devil? How else can you explain us being here on the show? How did these two guys get on our show? Think about it.
You know, what was going on in my life at 15, and that's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music, but it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
About a week ago, I sold my soul. You understand what I'm saying? And ever since I sold my soul, I haven't been happy ever since.
What do you think? Mitch McConnell next? That could be good, couldn't it? Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role. I've got to look at this table and say thanks to everybody here. Megan, oh my God, thank you so much for the great company.
When you sell your soul, you got to sacrifice someone that you really love, and I sacrificed myself and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And I did it. You get what I'm saying? I couldn't do it with nobody that I love. The demon asked me, are you sure you want to sacrifice? So you sacrifice someone that you love? I said, nah. But when you sell your soul, you feel me? You gotta. It's not how people say it is. You really gotta. Like, you really gotta pick. You understand what I'm saying? And you get anything you want. You get to be rich. You get to have fortune. You get to have everything you ever wanted. You feel me? But you could think I'm cap. I'm not tripping. I did it a week ago. I haven't been happy ever since. I've been having anxiety every single day. What did I wish for? To be famous and be rich. You ain't rich, not yet. So was it worth it? It hasn't been done yet. It takes time. Now I gotta be patient. I got offered twice. I've been offered twice. First time I didn't take.
Now, what were those 3 points again, Roger? The 3 things were, number 1, that they did not want Satan did not want the human family to think that he or his angels existed.
Right.
The second point that you made had to do with taking control of people's minds.
That's right.
The third point was what?
Was to destroy the Bible without burning it.
Okay.
See?
And what was his strategy on that?
On that, it was very interesting. Because after the Great General Council, it was decided that Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution. He was tutored by Lucifer himself, fallen Lucifer. And at that time, it was understood, Satan and his spirit counselors understood, that if a person was led to believe in the theory of evolution, it would, in his life, destroy completely the creation week of the Bible, the fall of man, and the plan of redemption. It would do away with it.
In one fell swoop.
Yeah. Now, he made a unique statement. He said that according to the spirits, anyone that teaches a theory of evolution is considered to be a minister of the great religious system. See, they call it the religious system, the theory of evolution, because it is a system of schooling people and getting them to disqualify themselves and being members of Christ's kingdom. And he said that every teacher of that theory is recognized by the spirits as a person of great value and receives a very special unction from Satan himself, giving great power to induce spiritual blindness, to convince and convert. 3 capacities are given to those teachers of the theory. Then, that's not all. The priest says that Satan considers the teachers of the theory of evolution to be so valuable to him that he assigns a retinue of bright, beautiful angels to follow that educator all the remainder of his life. And it's the greatest honor that he can bestow upon his workers, on mankind, and to, until the controversy is finished. That was quite enlightening.
You hear this one a lot. Science has proven evolution, therefore evolution is true. Since evolution is true and Christians don't believe it, then Christians don't believe science and they aren't rational people. Really, let's put that claim to the test. First off, evolution in the sense that things change is evident. No rational person disputes that. Therefore, rational Christians believe it. We can observe change, but evolution in the sense that life came from non-life and then that life began to randomly generate new genetic information and over time it eventually produced humans is something entirely different and something that quite honestly doesn't hold up against science. In other words, evolution in the sense of molecules to man is not scientifically plausible and therefore should not be viewed as scientific fact. Quite honestly, it is in great opposition to science, that is, observational science, the kind of science we can test and repeat and use our 5 senses to understand. Science demonstrates that over time, living organisms lose genetic information. They don't gain it. That same science demonstrates that life doesn't arise from non-life. Follow along if you would. Fact 1. There is no known observable process by which new genetic information can be added to an organism's genetic code. None. That pretty much refutes evolution right away because there's no way to go from a fish to an amphibian without adding new information, right? If living organisms cannot produce new genetic information, how can anything gradually change into something of higher intelligence or form or complexity? That is, how can anything evolve from an amoeba to a man without adding new genetic information? The answer, of course, is that it can't. Plain and simple. Now, some have speculated and they have imagined all kinds of things and they brought in artists to produce creative renderings based on guesses, and they have been successful in telling a very convincing story that humans evolved from ape-like creatures. But those are just drawings, people. They're just stories. But what we really observe is humans are humans and apes are apes. Now, if fact 1 buried evolutionary thinking deep into the Precambrian soil, this next fact, fact 2, tosses so much sediment on it that not even the greatest team of paleontologists with the latest subterranean gizmo could dig up the remains. Check this out. Never, again, never has it been observed that life can come from non-life. So here are 2 major scientific evidences against evolution. I reiterate for clarity, life has never been observed to come from non-life, and there is no known, observable process by which new genetic information can be added to the genetic code of an organism. So, molecules to man evolution doesn't really make scientific sense. Yet we are all here, and life is all around us in various forms. Although evolution cannot account for this, the Bible can. The Bible reveals that the all-powerful, all-knowing, supernatural God created the heavens and the earth out of nothing, and all life according to its kinds, that is, each with its own set of genetic information. So, again, what the Bible reveals makes sense of what we see and understand. Evolution does not. Enough said.
Beer is often sold at football games, but beer has absolutely nothing to do with football. Okay? Beer does not become athletic by association. And just because evolution is mixed into a science book, that does not make evolution part of science. It's just mixed in the book, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, I'm trying to fix it.
Can you give an example of a genetic mutation or an evolutionary process which can be seen to increase the information in the genome?
Can you just stop when I...
I don't know, we're gonna have to do something for you.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that. Watch this.
Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft. You can see that the deploy went very smoothly. At the moment of...
Did you see it in the background? There was a guy in the background, man. I'm not kidding you. You can't deny that that's someone in the background. There's a guy moving in the background. Here, watch it again. Watch it closely.
Your generation to embrace is that the earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the earth. There's no place to go.
Rockets don't have brakes. It literally stopped. All of that angular momentum from the rotation of the rocket and the linear momentum from flying up just stopped. No, it had to have hit something. What would it hit? If it hit a solid surface, the rocket would have been destroyed, and most likely the camera too, so we wouldn't have the footage, and obviously that's not the case.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it.
Kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back, and the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
There's no place to go.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it. And it may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now.
People figured out that we were an enclosed system. The more advanced we got, it would be the biggest thought on our minds. That's all we care about. You could make a wildlife preserve 1,000 miles square. All people, all human beings would do is just be knocking on the fence constantly, going, why is this fence here? Who built the fence? Why are we in here? And so on and so on.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world. A number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. You know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies. And it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long.
What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
Is it any secret? Is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there.
Well, Admiral Byrd, are private expeditions a thing of the past? Is expedition and exploration, making expedition and exploration now purely a government function because of the tremendous cost
No, I
and
don't think
organization?
so. I think down south it may be more or less a thing of the past, but not other expeditions that go. There's a lot of them go north now. The North Pole is the center of an ocean 10,000 feet deep. The South Pole, the center of a plateau 10,000 feet high.
Hi, I'm Noah. I'm in second grade. Could you show a somersault right now?
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
A set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
It was all recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence?
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true? Mankind's first interplanetary exploration and the original science data is missing?
This is Houston, radio check, over.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archives.
This film you're making now, what is it?
This is a film trying to prove that Apollo 11 happened.
Does it have a name? I mean, do you have a name for it yet, or
I'm calling it Did We Go?
Did we go? Okay. Okay.
Doesn't have it either. The Smithsonian doesn't have it. Johnson doesn't have it.
Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
Closer look at the supposed two images provided from NASA of Jupiter. Here's the problem again, 2016, 2014. What's the difference here? Well, the difference is they added the supposed auroras on the north, and this is nothing but a Christmas tree. Give me a break, take a look here. I mean, all the clouds are in the same exact position. Just the 2016 image is a bit, I would say, darker. It's a bit lighter in 2014. Here's a side-by-side. People can't see what's taking place here with NASA. Nothing more than fakery. I mean, give me a break. This is a complete insult. You have a brain in your head.
So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Oh, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. Only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there, right? Whose orange Hummer is this? Okay, that looks like a NASA symbol. Well, let's dig a little further because I can't really see anything on here other than it certainly looks like a NASA symbol. And I can't read that. Tried. Cameras set up, tents, ATVs, food. They've been there a while. It's not a one-day trip. Got their antennas set up out in the middle of nowhere in Greenland. Another ATV, a leveler equipment. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it. What the? Yeah. So I think I found out where Mars is, guys. It's just about 1,000 miles north of me. Not quite the distance that NASA says, but I can't find anybody who's in charge of this. They must be hiding behind these rocks. Oh no, there they are out in front of everybody, standing there. Lovely. Cloud number 1, cloud number 2, cloud number 3. These things just drive around taking pictures.
Simmons' job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, looks kind of flat, looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
English in reading too much, but I've since grown out of that and I enjoy reading now. And I played a lot of sports. And all of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
At the beginning of the 1700s, said the high priest, Satan and all his spirit counselors held a great general council with one purpose in mind. It was to prepare for the great industrial age that was soon to break upon the world. And Lucifer also foresaw another age that was to follow that, where tremendous scientific discoveries would be made by people. And we would enter a unique age that would change the way that everybody lives. It would also serve to usher in the end times and the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. And the priest said that Lucifer had been studying the Bible. And he found in Daniel 12:4, where we are told about the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, knowledge shall be increased. He understood it to be that we're getting to that point. And he had, with all the spirit counselors, to change their modes of operation in order, to ensnare people. And to devise a way whereby people would disqualify themselves from being members of Christ's kingdom.
And he was just very candid about this.
Oh, yeah.
Telling you and the rest of the group, 60 or 70 people there, the plans that
close to 100 people.
Lucifer had revealed to him.
And by the time the council came to a close, they had three major policies that were going to be followed. First, they were to see to it that humans would be made to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist. Because up to that time, you could walk down a street of Paris and you would have signs that would say where you have a soothsayer or, or a fortune teller of some type, and if you want to put a curse on someone, you could go and see this other old lady over there, the old witch, that's the way it goes. But now it had to change. Lucifer says, we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
Roger, that's interesting because a recent research study report that I read indicated that in a national survey, I believe it's over 75% of people do not really believe in a real tangible devil. But there is one.
Oh, yeah. Now, the next thing, the three parts policy that they had adopted there, the second one was to find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind.
So part of what the high priest told you was Satan's strategy to take total control of people's minds.
They felt that by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introducing it as a new science for the benefit of mankind, they could then use people of great renown, educators, people of capacity. So now this would be a way of de-Christianizing the Western world through the avenue of mysticism. Now the time came when Lucifer decided that he had to choose a person to initiate this thing. And Franz Mesmer, which was an Austrian physician, was chosen. Because
the priest told you all of this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because he was most capable. Mesmer originated a theory called animal magnetism, later on named mesmerism. Mesmer was led by the spirits to believe, and this is what a priest said, was led by the spirits to believe that certain persons have a magnetic influence within themselves, so to speak, that would cause them to have great power over other persons, even to the point of placing them into a trance. And at that time, that was readily accepted by people in general, at the time that Mesmer lived. So people realized, you know, that some people got a capacity to put you into a trance. That's the way. Now, by the time that he died, in 1815, a lot of the physicians in Europe were using hypnotism as a means of anesthesia.
Now, hypnotism is the same as mesmerism?
That's right. Okay. So mesmerism that's been developed to a higher degree of refinement. And the priest went on saying that the plan of Satan to deceive the human family this way, he says, is the most intriguing thing to his mind. And he went on saying how it was going to be brought about. He said that a fellow by the name of Darwin and another fellow by the name of Thomas Henry Huxley would be used by the spirits because in their childhood they had been hypnotized by medical doctors. And they figured that they would be real good subjects to lead the people into this belief that they had, that Satan wanted to bring into people's lives.
So I'm going to answer basic flat Earth questions. So the first question that this person is asking is, so are all the other planets flat? It's not even logical that it could be flat. The only thing that's illogical is to say that the Earth is a spinning cartoon ball in a vacuum where water bends for the first time in the history of mankind, adhering to the outside of a sphere as it spins and revolves around the sun that shoots through space 500,000 miles per hour, while the galaxy shoots 1.3 million miles per hour, and every single star for all recorded history resets over top of the Earth. Is the Earth, well, what about the other planets, right? That's the question. Well, are the other planets flat? No one thinks that all the other planets are flat, okay? For one, there isn't other planets. When you say other planet, you are presupposing the Earth is in fact a planet, which is the very thing we are discussing, right? That's the question. Is the Earth a spherical planet? That's called a begging the question fallacy. Just reasserting that something's true isn't real. The etymology for planet is wanderer, okay? It's a wandering star. We document them all the time. I document them all the time. You can zoom in on them. They're pulsating orbs of light. They're not static, meaning still. You cannot in any way prove they're solid, terra firma, or spherical, because you see the same thing every single day for all recorded history, a pulsating orb of light. Now, even if there were spheres in the sky, which there's literally no evidence for that. There's literally none that exists in the history of mankind. If they were spheres in the sky, that still wouldn't make the Earth a ball. That's like walking up to someone's house and saying, look, there's a light bulb on the ceiling. That means that the floor is a light bulb. That's like walking in a bar, walking up to a pool table, grabbing a pool ball and saying, look, the pool ball is a sphere. That means the pool table is also a sphere, okay? The Earth is provably not curving, which means it's flat. They said it's a certain size, right? So the radius value is the distance from the center to the edge of a circle or a sphere, right? They said that the Earth has a radius value of 3,959 miles. That means you have to see the curvature of the Earth at no further than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Okay, it has to curve at a certain rate. You can Google it yourself. Earth curve calculator. This is not flat Earthers math. This is the globe Earth's models math. Okay, Google it. Earth curve calculator. I showed you a picture. We have mountains seen from 255 miles away. 255 miles away, And according to the Globe Earth math, the top of the mountain in the back should have been blocked by 1 mile of Earth curvature. An entire mile of Earth curvature should have been blocking the top of the mountain, yet you could see the top of the mountain with the entire mile of Earth curvature missing. You can see the shoreline leading up to the mountain range. It's literally impossible. We have falsified the radius. It does not curve at the rate they said it did objectively. This is why it is censored by the government. This is why you ask questions like, oh, are we disking other solar system planet with other spherical planets? Because there's something called the Flat Earth Society, where everything they say is wrong and stupid and not one flat earther thinks any of it. It's called misinformation. So they admitted in Congress they censor flat earth.
In terms of conspiracy theory content generally, our goal is to promote authoritative content to our users. So we have two principles that guide the way here. That's the first one, is we want to provide users with authoritative, trustworthy information.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I only have a minute and a half, and I don't really need to hear what you're trying to provide. I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
Yet they prop up Flat Earth Society, which is not really flat Earth. It's all misinformation. That should automatically raise a red flag if you're honest. What's on the other side? What's the other side? The deepest hole ever dug is 7.8 miles. It's called the borehole in Russia. No one can dig deeper than that, conveniently enough. It's very similar to the distance of the deepest location in the ocean, called the Mariana Trench. No one's ever dug deeper than 8 miles. It's called the borehole in Russia. Now, whenever the Globe Earth had predictions based on the supposed layers of this Globe Earth, they were proven inaccurate the entire way down the entire 8 miles. They couldn't even get the top 8 miles correct with predictions, much less could they ever adequately predict 4,000 miles to a core that doesn't exist, that they still can't explain how it somehow creates a magnetic field because of the Curie point, and it's literally impossible according to Stanford and Harvard and Yale and Princeton. They literally can't explain the magnetic field in 2021 on a globe Earth. Now, would you fall off the edge? These are like elementary first grade questions, and I'm being honest with you, right? You need to listen. You have been engineered to treat us as if we're stupid. But you should be honest. You know nothing about the conversation. You haven't diligently researched it. You've never measured it. You've never made a long-distance observation, and you know nothing about it. So when you ask these stupid questions like, can you fall off the flat Earth? That is called a straw man fallacy, right? Because no one thinks that. So can you fall off the edge of a lake? Can you fall off the edge of a shore? Of course not. There's a shoreline, right? You can't fall off the edge of a pond. There's a shoreline. The water's contained. There's something called this. You need to just listen, though. Right? Because this is so much information that you're going to have to learn for you to even get close to understanding the conversation. Stop trying to pretend you're going to make flat earthers look dumb, because you look dumb when you do that. You ask questions like, so what is up with the other planets? If you knew what flat earth really said, you know that that's a very dumb question. If you say stuff like, can you fall off the edge? You would know that's a very dumb question. There's something called the 60th south latitude, effectively a circle around you. It was signed in the Antarctic Treaty that it is illegal for you to privately and freely explore past this region. China, Russia, the United States have all signed it. It's the longest lasting peace treaty in modern history, okay? So all these geopolitical adversaries and enemies have all signed a treaty that says it's illegal for you to go explore past that area. So we cannot make claims what's past there because you can't go there to verify it. It's literally impossible and illegal, okay? The one thing that would prove the Earth's a ball is, for one, measuring the curvature of the Earth. Never been done. In fact, the opposite's been done. Every measurement of the Earth ever assumes a flat Earth, and we have measurements way too far to be on a globe Earth, including lasers that were shot without getting hit by the curvature. You need to listen. If you can come up with a question you think that I can't answer, that doesn't make the Earth a ball. We falsified the globe Earth. It is not curving at a rate consistent with the radius value of 3,959 miles. This is why we are heavily censored, and I've been censored on every major platform, and even PayPal and Venmo, because they forcibly censored the real flat Earth by telling you the lies. So you should listen very carefully. We know that the Earth is the bottom of everything, okay? The basement, effectively, in layman terms. It's geocentric. That means the center of everything. It's stationary, of course, meaning not moving. It's a geocentric stationary plane. We have mountains, we have valleys, but it's a topographical plane. The sky resets like a perfect clock over top of us for all recorded history. It all goes around Polaris, the North Pole star, directly over the center of the surface of the Earth, which is the North Pole, and it resets perfectly for all recorded history for thousands of years, doing the exact same thing. literally impossible on a ball Earth spinning, revolving around the sun, shooting through space. This is why. They said that the lights are actually thousands of light years away. Not because they went and measured something thousands of light years away, because they mathematically had to construct something consistent with the model, and it necessitated they be that far away because the stars don't change like they would have to if you had all these different vectors going on. It's called parallax, okay? So you need to understand the true origins of this religion. And it is a religion, it's a belief system built upon the doctrine of men with no empirical evidence. The Big Bang Theory was literally proposed by a Catholic priest, a Jesuit priest, proposed the Big Bang Theory. Oh, well, the perfect shape's a sphere, a metaphysical, ontological premise, philosophical. The perfect shape's a sphere, so the Earth must therefore, by deduction, be a sphere. Let's try to figure out a way to mathematically prove that it could be a sphere. That's literally where it started. It's literally a religion. We were all shown cartoons of it, and they told you there's no more land on the Earth, and there's nothing significant about you. You're on a tiny speck of dust in an ever-expanding universe where everything came from nothing, right? And the truth is that they have put us in a little circle, like a playpen, and they said, you're not allowed to go outside of there, you stupid little peasants. And there are people that are the peasants running around attacking the other people, trying to wake them up and free them. It's insanity. They have put us in a little circle, like a playpen, and they said, you're not allowed to go outside of there, you stupid little peasants. And there are people that are the peasants running around attacking the other people, trying to wake them up and free them. It's insanity.
Mr. Jones owned a cotton plantation and many slaves. One day he was talking to the owner of the plantation next to his, and Mr. Jones was lamenting the fact that times were tough. He was having to work his slaves harder than ever, and was having trouble with some of them being disobedient or trying to run away. The other plantation owner said he knew someone who could help.
Day 1.
One day Mr. Jones called his slaves together so a man named Mr. Smith could talk to them. Before beginning, Mr. Smith whispered to Mr. Jones, whatever I say, do not contradict me or interfere, and I promise you your slave troubles will end. My name is Mr. Smith, he said to the slaves, and this may be the happiest day of your lives. From today forward, you will no longer be slaves, but free men. Mr. Jones was so shocked he started to step forward, but Mr. Smith gestured for him to remain silent. He did, only because the other plantation owner had spoken so highly of Mr. Smith's skills. You are no longer the property of Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith continued. You are free. No more will you be forced to labor for the benefit of Mr. Jones. Now you can work for yourselves. Now the slaves were all murmuring and looking at each other. Many were smiling, many were looking puzzled. In fact, you are now free to leave the plantation whenever you want, Mr. Smith said. However, since we are surrounded by other plantations, if you leave, some other plantation owner will likely claim you as his own the moment you set foot on his property. So I urge you not to risk your newfound freedom by doing something so foolish. Instead, I suggest that you stay here, no longer as slaves, but as willing participants and part owners of this plantation. Yes, this is now your plantation. Mr. Jones bit his tongue to keep from objecting. For now, we might as well leave Mr. Jones in charge, said Mr. Smith, since he is the only one with any experience at running a plantation, which is quite a complicated thing to manage. But he will no longer be your master, but just another worker on the plantation. In fact, he will now be using his organizational and management skills to serve you. Whatever problems you may have had with him before, you are now all equals, and you need each other to make this work. If we all cooperate and work together, we can all reap the benefits together. In honor of this happy occasion, I present you this new symbol of togetherness and cooperation, this flag, which shall be the emblem of the new Free Jones Plantation. He held up the new flag, but most of those listening were still too amazed to respond. And this shall be our motto, Mr. Smith announced. We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. To celebrate, everyone has the rest of the day off. Enjoy your freedom, do as you please, and be back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, so that we may begin work on this great and noble new endeavor as equal free men. Finally convinced that Mr. Smith was serious, the former slaves applauded and cheered.
Day 2.
We all want this plantation to do well, Mr. Smith said at the beginning of the next meeting, so we can all share in the benefits. We all know that it takes a lot of effort to make a cotton plantation work. Just because you're all free doesn't mean you can stop working. In fact, since you're now working for yourselves, I expect you to work even harder than ever before, but now with pride and joy, knowing that you're working for yourselves. Of course, there still have to be rules. If everyone just does whatever he wants, the plantation won't produce anything. This experiment will fail and we'll all starve. You should be thankful that Mr. Jones has agreed to stay on to lend his knowledge and skills to this endeavor, and I trust you will all do your own part to make this work. Several of you have been chosen to act as project supervisors to manage different aspects of the operation, to make sure everyone is doing his assigned job, to make sure that the rules are followed, and so on. The rest of you may head out to the fields to start your first day of work as free men.
Day 3.
The next morning, Mr. Smith had a grim expression on his face as the daily meeting began. I have an unpleasant duty to do today, he said. Yesterday, Charles was caught keeping some of the cotton he picked, presumably to sell for his own personal profit. That is against the rules. That is stealing. For that, Charles must be punished. 2 men tied Charles to the whipping post. I take no joy in this, Mr. Smith continued, but you must understand, if we do not maintain order, if we do not have rules that we all abide by, then the plantation will fail, and we will all suffer. The whip cracked against Charles' back. But if we all pitch in for the common good, then we can all prosper. Being free doesn't mean you should be selfish and greedy. We must each do our assigned duties and obey the rules, and then we can all benefit, and each of you will receive your appropriate share of the profits. A young man named Samuel stepped forward. But if you and Mr. Jones decide the rules and whip us if we disobey, how is that any different from what we had before? How can you say that? Mr. Smith asked. I'm shocked. You were a slave before, and now you're free. Things still need to be managed and organized by those best qualified to do so. Do you know how to run a plantation, Samuel? Well, no, he answered. But if we're free, why do we get no say in what the rules are and how things work? I'm surprised at your ingratitude, Mr. Smith answered. None of you know how a plantation is run, so you're in no position to be making decisions about how things are done here. You don't seem to appreciate all the things that Mr. Jones provides for you, from protecting you from all the outside threats that you know nothing about, those who would come here, capture and enslave you, if not for Mr. Jones' protection, to making sure that you will have food and housing, tools to work with, you're cared for when sick and injured, and so on. There wouldn't be a plantation at all, no cotton to pick, no land to plant and harvest, if not for him. You should be grateful that he's made possible the level of comfort you now have. Your lives would be far worse if not for him. Nevertheless, as free and equal participants in this endeavor, from now on, at each meeting, any worker may have 2 minutes to ask questions or voice suggestions or complaints. With that, the workers all seemed satisfied and headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton.
Day 4.
I have a big announcement, Mr. Smith said as the daily meeting began. Mr. Jones' cousin is here, and not just to visit and see how our project is coming along. It has been decided that from now on, you will be deciding who will manage the plantation. Of course, this job can't be done by just anyone, but every 3 months we will have a special meeting at which all the workers will vote on whether we think Mr. Jones should run the plantation or whether we think his cousin, Mr. Johnson, should run the plantation. That means that ultimately you are in charge because you will be deciding which man you want running things on your behalf. If you don't like the way things are being managed, you now have the power to change it. Amazed and pleased, the workers headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton. Days passed, months passed, a year passed, and the plantation continued to operate as before. Sometimes Mr. Jones was in charge, sometimes Mr. Johnson was in charge, but the day-to-day routine stayed exactly the same. The workers worked hard, long hours every day, and still had little to show for it. Every day the meeting would begin with them all reciting the Jones Plantation motto. We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. One day Mr. Smith announced, Samuel is asked to say a few words this morning, and whatever the rest of us may think of his ideas and opinions, we are all free here, and that means we are all allowed to speak our minds. So, Samuel, you have 2 minutes. Begin. Samuel stepped forward, looking scared. I was excited when all this started, he began, glancing nervously at Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones. But don't you all see what's happened here? Nothing's changed. We're all still slaves. There were grumbles of disagreement from the crowd. They tell us what to do and whip us if we don't. They still make all the rules and punish us if we disobey. They let us make suggestions and complain about things, but they never really change anything. They let us choose between Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson, but what's the difference? The situation stays the same. We do all of the work and they take as much as they want and decide how much they'll let us keep. They live in luxury, made rich by the cotton we pick. We do all the work and have to build our own huts, grow our own food, and take care of ourselves. They leave us just enough that we don't revolt or run away. This is not freedom. We're all still slaves. They've only changed the words they use, but nothing else has changed. They say we're all free and equal, but we're not. They command and we obey. That's not freedom. That's not equality. They say we're free to leave, but all that means is that we're free to be someone else's slave. Why should we work or obey the rules? We didn't agree to this. They made the system. They forced it on us. They control and rob us and call it freedom. They've deceived you into thinking that being able to choose which slave master you'll work for is the same as being free. It's not. Open your eyes. If you keep what you produce, they call it stealing. When they take what you produce, they call it sharing and fair distribution. Can't you see that this is all? Your time is up, Samuel, Mr. Smith announced calmly. At his gesture, 2 supervisors grabbed Samuel by the arms and led him to the whipping post. I'm sorry, Samuel, but you've broken the rules. There are rules against encouraging others not to work and encouraging others to break the rules. You're only hurting all of us with your discontentment and your complaining and your disobedience. The whip fell and Samuel let out a grunt. Without rules, without order, all would be lost. Without law, there would be chaos. We can't just behave as wild animals, each doing whatever he pleases. We must all follow the plan and all do our duty for the betterment of everyone. And those who do not must be punished. The whip fell again and blood flowed freely from Samuel's back. Samuel, it is you who are stealing from the others. When you don't do your assigned work, you are making more work for others. When you disobey the rules, it is you who are endangering the future of everyone else here. You are the thief. You are the criminal. You are the one trying to destroy the arrangement that keeps us all safe and prosperous. At every lash of the whip, the other workers cheered louder and louder, some yelling curses at Samuel. Being spoiled and selfish, you complain about everything, talking as if you're oppressed. But you are the one ruining things. You are the one keeping us from being all we could be. It is your greed and your rebelliousness that is hurting all of us. They all play by the rules, Mr. Smith said, gesturing at the others. What makes you think that you don't have to? You think you're above the law? There were loud yells of agreement as the whip fell again. We must maintain order, Mr. Smith proclaimed, to make this plantation great, to make it so that we can all be happy and prosperous. To have the society we want, there have to be rules. We all have to contribute our fair share to this great endeavor, and we cannot tolerate actions and attitudes that seek to undermine the amazing things that together as free men we have achieved and will continue to achieve. Mr. Jones was smiling as he gave Mr. Smith a pat on the back. The crowd was cheering so loudly that none of them had noticed that Samuel had died.
And they told you there's no more land on the earth, and there's nothing significant about you. You're on a tiny speck of dust in an ever-expanding universe where everything came from nothing, right? And the truth is that they have put us in a little circle, like a playpen. And they said, you're not allowed to go outside of there, you stupid little peasants. And there are people that are the peasants running around attacking the other people, trying to wake them up and free them. It's insanity. You should research it. So 1945, we brought Nazis over here in Operation Paperclip, okay? One of the Nazis we brought over here was Werner van Braun, because the W is like a V, it's German, right? Okay, Werner van Braun was an SS officer of the Nazi regime. He was brought over here to help us get to the moon via space exploration, right? The Space Exploration Department he was put in charge of. In 1945, Operation Paperclip. It was called this because they put paperclips on certain people's files so they would know who to grab and pull over here out of the Nazi regime. Operation Paperclip, 1945. In 1946, the government started something called Operation High Jump. This is where they went and explored the Antarctic region with Admiral Byrd, a well-decorated admiral for the U.S. military. They went and explored the Antarctic region. He came back on nationally televised interview in 1954 and said, "It is astonishing to me that there is land as big as the continental U.S. on the other side of Antarctica that remains unexplored with tons of resources." He then died in 1957. In perfect shape, heart complication. 3 years later, he died in 1957. In 1958, NASA was founded, which means to deceive in Hebrew and has a snake tongue going through it. In 1959, they signed the Antarctic Treaty, which said that it was illegal to privately explore that region that they had just explored in Operation High Jump. In 1961, JFK then came out and told the world America's going to be the first country to land on the moon. In 1962, they then started to shoot high-altitude missiles in something called Operation Fishbowl, which was part of a bigger operation called Operation Dominique, which translates to of the Lord. So literally meaning Operation Fishbowl of the Lord. The U.S. military shot high-altitude missiles up trying to penetrate the firmament and container. There's hundreds of documents explaining that there's a firmament and that there is, in fact, approximation method to determine the brightness of the firmament that was proven accurate. There are U.S. military documents that have been declassified, but it wasn't on CNN or TikTok, so you've never heard of it. That is how they've effectively brainwashed the public with cartoons since they were 5. So then they shot these up in 62, 1 year after JFK said we were going to go to the moon. Then JFK got assassinated. Then, in 1968, a movie came out called Space Odyssey about a moon landing, and it was the most famous movie at the time. It won Film of the Year. The year before we went, one of the astronauts that was supposed to be in the crew that went said, "We will never go to the moon. We can't even get to low Earth orbit. We can't even communicate in the same building with one another. It's impossible we go to the moon by 1969. He then went and hung a lemon on the module that was supposed to go. Right after this guy mysteriously exploded and died in a routine checking of wires on NASA's facilities. Then in 69, we miraculously were able to go after not being able to go to low Earth orbit in 1968. And then they called the president from a landline 238,000 miles away with no delay. Yet they say we cannot go back to this day over 50 years later because they quote-unquote destroyed the technology and it's a painful process to build it back, quote-unquote, from Don Pettit, world-renowned astronaut.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
This is where they supposedly took a real picture of the Earth from space in the Apollo missions when they supposedly went back and forth like 6 times with no problem, but now they still can't do it 50 years later because we can't replicate the technology from the 60s. In 72, we supposedly took a picture of the Earth in these Apollo missions, and that is the only supposed real picture of the Earth from space ever. They didn't go there. So very simply, a summary for you, okay? They brought Nazis over here who were typically famous for brainwashing people with propaganda. They said, hey, we're not going to hang you for your war crimes. We're going to revere you as scientific geniuses. We need you to help us with this propaganda effort. We're going to lie to the U.S. public and tell them that we beat the Soviet Union going to the moon. Then they went explore the Antarctic region. They discovered that the Antarctic region had something there and what it was. They then came back and said, it's illegal for you to go there. And that treaty still stands intact where it's illegal for you to privately go explore it. They then said, don't worry though, we explore the Earth for you. You're not allowed to explore, but we explored it for you. Here's your little playpen. You stay in your circle, you little slaves. Look at space. Here's NASA. We're going to go to the moon. Something that you could never stand on, never land on, isn't terra firma or solid or spherical. Okay, so there you go. Are there any maps of the flat Earth? Literally every single map that exists in the history of all mankind is a flat Earth. The U.S. military still uses flat Earth maps for navigation and everything else in the world. There's no such thing as a globe Earth map. It's disproportionate. In fact, every single map is flat intrinsically. So the way that they navigate is based on Polaris and the movement of the stars in the sky, which they've done this for thousands of years, which continue to reset in perfectly recorded concentric circles every single year, right? Every map that exists is a flat Earth map. That's the only way you can navigate. Hundreds of declassified documents from the U.S. military saying the Earth's a flat, non-rotating surface. The Earth is flat, that they use flat Earth assumptions for everything that they do, including engineering planes, operating military planes and aircraft, shooting missiles, long-distance ballistics. They always assume a flat, non-rotating surface. Okay, so I get it. It is a lot to take in, but I'm just letting you know you gotta look into this before you think it's crazy. I've been looking into it for 5 years. We have an observation where we're 1 foot off the surface of the Earth, and we look out and zoom in, and the horizon's over 10 miles away. Based on the globe Earth math, geometry, right? If you're 1 foot off this sphere with a radius of 3959, you have to see the curvature at 1.2 miles. So if you're 1 foot off the Earth, you have to see the curvature at 1.2 miles. Yet 1 foot off the Earth, we saw the horizon over 10 miles away. That would require the radius to be 264,000 miles. They claimed it's under 4,000. We falsified the radius. It's not as simple as saying, well, maybe it's just a little bigger. They got it wrong. If the radius is wrong, the entire model's wrong. Day and night cycle uses this number. Gravity supposedly uses this number. Planet orbit trajectories use this number. You can never go to space without this number. You need something called the radius of orbit, requiring the radius of the Earth. Every single story they told you about going to space is fake intrinsically upon the falsification of the radius. The entire model has been falsified. This is why it's forcibly censored. That's why they will never debate this on national television. Just shut down the stupid flat earther and let an astrophysicist debate them. They'll never do it. Neil deGrasse Tyson was supposed to debate Eric Dubé. It was set up on Joe Rogan's podcast, the #1 podcast in the world for over a decade. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson had to back out. Then they showed you some supposed curvature from Felix Baumgartner at 128,000 feet when he supposedly jumped out and saw the curvature of the Earth. We then sent high-altitude footage, our balloons up, getting footage of the horizon at 120,000 feet, and it was completely flat up there, showing objectively they misled and lied to the entire world with a GoPro who actually sponsored it with Red Bull, saying that this was the curvature of the Earth that you could see from the edge of space, not even close to where they claim space is, which is the Kármán line at 62 miles. And then, of course, that's the international one, and they say the U.S. acknowledges that 50 miles. Right? So when we sent it up and found out that it was flat, they then had to come out with damage control and use Neil deGrasse Tyson to say, a lot of people think that they saw the curvature of the Earth in the Felix Baumgartner jump. That's not true. You would never see the curvature from that height. You'd be 2 millimeters off this beach ball, and up there that stuff would be freaking flat. So why'd they show the whole world a curve that wasn't actually there until we went and tested it? Why did they tell you that when boats disappear, they're going over the curvature of the Earth?
Curvature of the Earth, horizon model of science! Watch. As ships sail away, they don't disappear all at once. No, first, the bottom will disappear. See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. Now, ships came back. They didn't fall off a table. So people realized that the world is curved. I mean, it's a big curve, but it's curved.
When you can actually go out, see the boat disappear, bring a camera out, zoom in, and you'll actually see it once again. Did I zoom in through the Earth X-ray vision with my P900? No. The boat appears to go away or disappear due to a limit of perspective. You have an angular resolution limit to your eyes. We also have something called the atmosphere, and you can't see infinitely through an atmosphere. Eventually you reach a vanishing point called a horizon, which is where the sky appears to meet the ground. It's horizontal, which is why it's called a horizon, because it's horizontal. And this place constantly fluctuates and comes back and forth based on the atmospheric conditions of the day, how clear it is, and how high off the surface of the Earth you are. It's not a real physical place that curves and blocks your view. It's an optical apparent location that constantly moves. So All observations of the history of mankind have showed a flat, non-rotating surface. The Earth is a geocentric stationary plane, a topographical plane with different elevation differences within it. And that is what all evidence shows you. It's the only way it could even exist. You also can't have the gas pressure that you're breathing sitting next to a vacuum. It's literally impossible. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy will increase, pressure will fill the available space. Heat goes to cold, high pressure goes to low pressure. Systems seek spontaneous equilibrium. Second law of thermodynamics. This is a natural law, not a theory that you can change or debate. It's not something that someone came up with. It's something that happens always in nature. It's a naturally occurring phenomena that always happens. This is called a second law of thermodynamics, a natural law, right? So if you had pressure sitting next to a vacuum, it would instantaneously seek equilibrium, filling the vacuum. If you have a soda and you open it, it goes psh, instantaneously equalizing to the lower pressure around it. That's the second law of thermodynamics. You could not have gas pressure of oxygen that you're breathing or any of the gases sitting next to a vacuum. It would instantaneously fill the vacuum. You've been trained to say this word over and over and over. Gravity, 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 gravity. Well, gravity is not actually real. It's a concept. It's a theory that has no evidence.
What is gravity?
I have no idea. Okay, next question.
So whenever I drop something, it falls down because it's more dense than the air. If I let go of a helium balloon, it goes up because it's less dense than the surrounding air. It's lighter than the surrounding air. Not because it's gravity proof. Helium balloons do not go up because they're gravity proof. They go up because they're less dense. It's called relative density, right? If you wanted to get real specific, everything's intrinsically electrostatic, but that's unnecessary. There is no scientific evidence for gravity. There is no experiment that's isolated gravity, and it's known for a fact in highest levels of academia that this does not exist. There is no isolation or scientific experiment validating gravity. That's why it's called the theory of relativity, where they say that gravity is the effect of the bending and warping of space-time. Two concepts. Can you bend freedom and love? Of course not. You can't attribute physical properties to conceptual abstractions. This is called a reification fallacy. Doesn't matter. The only evidence ever to even be claimed that the Earth is in fact a ball with gravity is gravity has to exist because the Earth's a ball. Literally, that is the only evidence. If we assume the Earth is a ball, then gravity has to exist because it has to exist for the Earth to possibly be a sphere. It has to pull us down in all directions, omnidirectional, all directions. We have to be pulled down. So gravity has to exist. Yeah, we don't have any evidence for it. We can't prove it. We can't accurately define it. And when we apply it to the sky, it's off by 95% in 2021. They're off by 95%. It's called dark matter and dark energy. They still cannot explain the supposed model, not even mathematically. We have falsified it. The flat Earth can't explain magnetism. It can't explain the cyclical nature of the sky. It can't explain everything else that we see. The globe Earth cannot. Okay, so all scientific empirical evidence shows you this, and we have tested it. We proved that they lied. With cartoons, they lied to you. The same exact schooling system that told you Christopher Columbus discovered the United States when people were already here. The same exact system that lied to you about the Vietnam War and said that they attacked us and they attacked themselves and said that, in fact, they declassified, they had to do that to justify war, but they lied to the American public saying Vietnam attacked us in Gulf of Tonkin. Same ones that lied about 9/11. You shouldn't blindly believe the system. You should go look into it for yourself, and you will find out that most of the people that are lying, it's actually not intentionally. They believe the lie as well, and they propagate it forward. And there's something called compartmentalization, where people are trying to explain something that doesn't exist. So you ask questions like, why would they lie? They get $60 million a day from NASA. They're hiding more land and resources. They told you you're an insignificant speck of dust in the ever-expanding universe where everything came from nothing. Lightning struck primordial soup, and then rocks turned into fish eventually, that then turned into fish with feet, that turned into rodents, that turned into apes, that turned into humans, and there's nothing important about you. Random chaotic happenstance that you even exist. Over the course of billions of years of everything exploding from nothing, you get perfectly coalesced into spheres where happen to be you can somehow live here. So don't worry. Well, the truth is, the Earth is stationary and the center of everything, geocentric, and the sky moves in perfect circles over top of us around the center of the sky, right over the center of the Earth. And that means the Earth had to be created. It had to be placed there. So they're hiding the creator. There's 3 reasons. Also, you can't trust any of your senses. You think you're spinning 1,000 miles per hour, but you don't feel it. You think the Earth is curving, but you see it flat. You think that the sun is sitting still in the sky, but you see it move. You think the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but you see it as the same size as the moon. And so you can no longer trust your senses. You do not think that you can adequately tell the difference between truth and fiction. You must turn to authority to get all of your answers that you cannot understand. So they have brainwashed you into a slave state where you always turn to the authority to know what truth is, because you have been told that you cannot figure it out on your own.
How can you say that? Mr. Smith asked. I'm shocked. Things still need to be managed and organized by those best qualified to do so. Do you know how to run a plantation, Samuel?
This is how you have good brainwashing capability of a state. So there's 4 very rudimentary reasons they would lie. Why wouldn't they lie? Knowledge is power. If you're the only one with the knowledge, it's much more powerful. When does the government not lie? Okay, so there are your answers. They're hiding land and resources and money and brainwashing you, and they put you in a little circle and told you can't leave there while they go hang outside of it. Okay, so there's plenty of reasons why they would lie. It doesn't really matter why they lied. The motivation of lying is independent of the fact that they did lie. Okay, and falsification is independent of replacement. We falsified the globe Earth. We don't have to replace every fairy tale they said before it's still real. If you tell me Santa's real, and then I see mommy and daddy bring presents in the house, I don't have to go come up with a new fictitious character from the North Pole or Santa's still real. We falsified your claim that Santa's real. That's all there is to it. Falsification is independent of replacement. So there you go. There are the basics. You can't fall off. You can't fall off of a lake. There's a shore. Antarctica is known to have the highest elevation in the entire world. It is an ice ring effectively around the water. Captain Cook tried to circumnavigate the Earth, and he went for 68,000 miles, and all he saw was an ice shelf the entire time. You're not allowed to go independently verify this, though, so the water is contained, which is convenient because fluid statics is also a natural law. Water finds its level. Water at rest is always level, period. Okay, so water conforms to its container and finds its level. Well, conveniently, it's contained on this flat Earth, and it's level. Of course it is. So how is 70% of a ball level? It's impossible. It defies fluid statics, the second law of thermodynamics. There's no empirical evidence for it, and we see way too far. We see mountains from hundreds of miles away. We see the skyline of Chicago 60 miles over Lake Michigan should have been completely obstructed. We have mountains we can see from 273 miles away. We have mountains we can see from 103 miles away. We have nothing but evidence that falsifies the globe Earth. So if the surface of the Earth is flat all over it, what is it? Do I believe in aliens? Well, for one, what is the etymology of alien or extraterrestrial? Extra land, extra terrain. So if there are other lands that they have hidden where someone lives, technically they would be alien or extraterrestrial. We would be in the inner space. They drew a circle around us, and there would be the outer space. There is no alien coming from outer space where it's a vacuum that couldn't exist, that they're thousands of light years away, and some intergalactic civilization with different races coming to get you from outer space vacuum boogeymen. None of that's real. I don't make claims about whether aliens are real or not. I know they'll probably lie to you about it, and the same guy, Werner von Braun, that was the Nazi brought over here to lie to us about going to the moon, told his secretary that they would fake an alien invasion and also fake things about asteroids. I don't really know. You can look into Project Bluebeam, but it doesn't matter. And by the way, Werner von Braun also put Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone, which says that the firmament shows the handiwork of the Creator. The firmament comes from the Hebrew word rakia, strong as bronze. It was stretched out over top of us to protect us, and we were like grasshopper inhabitants within the tent he stretched over top of us, and it's strong as bronze, like beaten out with bronze, rakia. So why did the guy supposedly took us to space put on his tombstone that you can't go to space because there's a firmament there? Well, he let the truth out on his deathbed. He also wrote a science fiction book in the 50s, and in the science fiction book that the Nazi wrote in the 50s, the main character's title is Elon, and Elon supposedly takes us to Mars. I guess that the prophet of the Nazi was really good at predicting what would happen, right? He wasn't just good at mass murdering millions of people. He was also a prophet that knew that Elon would take us to Mars in 2021 and talk about how he's going to do it. So the world's a stage.
You need to make it more pointy. And actually, that's what I also said the same thing. Starship, we need to make it more pointy.
Did you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Did it have any effect on the aerodynamics?
No.
Nothing.
No, we can make it way blunter and be fine.
But is it better to be pointier? Or like if it wasn't for the movie?
It's arguably slightly worse. But like
Jules Verne wrote a science fiction novel in the late 1800s predicting the moon landing and where the rocket would shoot from, what state, what direction, how it would slingshot around it, and everything else. They take science fiction books and they tell the public that it's true while they know the truth. Powerful people are lying to you, okay? So do not fall for whatever they tell you. You need to look into things for yourself. Don't blindly believe anyone. Go research it for yourself. Go test it for yourself. And if you do this, you will find out that the Earth is provably flat. I would have to sit down here and talk for another 3 hours to tell you every flat Earth proof. There's something called specular reflections. You cannot have perfect reflections on a surface if it's not flat. It cannot be concave or convex at all. Specular reflections debunk the globe Earth. We have local reflections from the sun, showing the sun's a local light source. This is impossible in the globe Earth model. The sun has to be so far away we have parallel rays, right? So it's impossible. This debunks the globe Earth. We have crepuscular rays, which are divergent rays that converge onto the sun, showing the sun's a local light source. Impossible on a globe Earth. They say it's actually parallel. It just looks like that. We see that the sun and the moon are the same size. They say that the sun's actually 400 times bigger than the moon, just coincidentally, exactly 400 times further away also, so that it looks like they're the same size, so we can have total eclipses. Or maybe they're just the same size, bro, and the scriptures are true, and it says that there's a lesser light that rules the night and a greater light that rules the day. Okay, that's all there is to it. We see the same moon for all recorded history, while people claim it's a sphere that spins, but if it spun 1/4 a mile per hour, slower or faster, we'd see the other side of it, so it just perfectly sits there for thousands of years. That's a cool story, bro. None of this has any evidence. It's all fairy tales. What we know for a fact is that water always finds its level. To have pressure, you must have a container, which means the way that you're breathing is the gas pressure on the earth is contained, and we see way too far. The earth's a topographical planet, isn't curving. This is just the way that it is. You can't go deeper than 7.8 miles. You can't go past the 60th south latitude. We need to wake up and then tell them that we demand to know the truth and to be able to freely traverse the earth. That is the next step. Now, to try to attack the people that actually researched it, are bold enough to not care that other people get triggered and try to call you dumb or try to attack you because they were told that it's dumb. The people that are strong enough and intelligent enough to actually understand it, research it, test it, and then go speak about it are the people that are fighting for you, whether you understand that or not. And we're used to taking the bullets, but you should maybe jump on the side of that people actually doing what's best for humanity as opposed to trying to attack them. So there you go. It's all a lie. Georgia Guidestones prove it. Yeah, exactly. The Georgia Guidestones wouldn't work unless the Earth was a geocentric stationary plane Earth, right? Because it's used as a compass, a clock, and a calendar. It shows Polaris day after day after day for all recorded history that it's been there, and it will always work, showing you where north is, because it doesn't change. For all recorded history, Polaris is in north. That's how you know where north is, so it would be a compass, right? It also shows you where the winter solstice and the summer solstice is. It shows you the time of the year. It's a calendar, because the Earth doesn't move and the sun does the same thing. That has the same cycle. There's a cycle over top of us like a clock that resets every year. This cost almost $1 million to build it, and it would be a complete waste of money if the Earth was a spinning ball. Okay, so that's just the way that it is. And they tell you what they want to do on there, and I think everyone should just wake up, maybe everyone should just wake up and stop getting triggered that we didn't go to the moon in 1969. Stop being surprised or acting surprised the government lied to you. Stop being surprised and acting like China and Russia lying is a big shock to you. The U.S. government has lied about everything. So what you should do is accept truth for what it is, right? It's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled. That is not my problem. That is, you need to look into the evidence and be honest. We see way too far. We falsify the curvature of the Earth. There you go. I mean, I don't know what other basic questions I might have missed, but you should be able to figure them out. You'll ask stuff like, oh, you shouldn't look past the curvature. If the Earth's a ball, it has to curve. If you were intellectually honest about this, you wouldn't get past that. You're like, wait, that's the most efficient way to test if the Earth is in fact a ball with this radius. Geometry, measurements of shapes, sphere, certain size, dimensions, 3,159 radius. You would test that and see if it's curving at that rate, because it has to curve. If a woman's pregnant and she moves her hand across her stomach and then it comes down to the bottom, can she still see her hand? No, because the curve of her stomach physically obstructs her hand. That is what the Earth has to do if it's a ball. This is where the answer lies. Is it really what they said it is? You can go measure the surface of the Earth, and it is objectively, provably not what they said it is. So if your response to that is to not answer it or figure out how it could work or figure out what's going on or go test and see if that claim is true or see exactly if these observations really do exist, if your response is, oh, well, how do eclipses work? What about magnetic fields? What about, if you start asking every random question you can think of, you're being intellectually dishonest. You're diverting away, and you can't handle what the truth is. Right? So if you think you can ask a gotcha question that some flat earther might not answer, that doesn't change the fact we falsified the radius. Okay? We don't know all the answers. The globe Earth knows none of the answers, right? People will say, what about eclipses? Eclipses debunked the globe Earth, and they still use the Chaldeans from Babylonian time, 2500 BC, a geocentric stationary plane Earth civilization. They knew the Earth was flat and stationary and the center of everything, and they used something called the stereocycle from the Chaldeans from 2500 BC to this day at NASA to be able to predict the eclipses. They cannot use the heliocentric model to predict eclipses at all. There's something called the Selenilian eclipse, right? And it's where the sun and the moon are both above the Earth during the lunar eclipse, according to the globe Earth model. The reason you have a lunar eclipse is because the Earth blocks the light from the sun and casts a shadow onto the moon, and that's what actually physically obstructs the sunlight, causing the shadow, thus a lunar eclipse. Yet in the Selenilian eclipse, a lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, above the Earth, a geometric impossibility on the globe Earth. And guess what year they said that they discovered this and recorded it for the first time? 1666. It's not a coincidence they told you that the first time they recorded the eclipse that debunked the model is 1666, 666, right? The same year that gravity was discovered by Isaac Newton, supposedly, in 1666, with a number of 6.67, right? Where we have north and south Arctic circles at 66.6 degrees, while the circumference of the Earth in nautical miles is 21,600, 6 times 6 times 600, while we're on a 66.6 degree tilt with a curvature rate of 0.666 feet per mile squared, shooting around the sun 66,600 miles per hour. Okay, so it's a lie, it's a Luciferian lie, and if you're actually at the highest level of the occulted people that try to control the world and lie to all of us, you have to know these things, or you're not allowed there, okay? So that is why they lied. It's simple. If you wanted to control and brainwash an entire group of people on the earth, what better way than to start by lying to them about the nature of the very place that they live? If you want to brainwash them on the earth, why not lie to them about the earth? Why not tell them there's no more land, it's a finite little sphere, and you have to stay here? Because there's more land and you get to control it. Why would they not lie? Knowledge is power. It's much more powerful if you're the only one with it. So there are the basics where you should research it, right? Alright, I love you guys. I'm going to catch up with you guys later. Battery's about to die. I wanted to answer the basic questions. There you go. I can't go back and forth in comments. And if you watch this video, you'll understand why I can't go back and forth in comments all day. I have hundreds of people that are doing that and sending me messages. So, look at our content. Go find us and listen and learn and study and research. But for everyone, drop the arrogance, okay? Drop the arrogance. When I first heard about Flat Earth, I thought it was dumb also. Then I humbled myself in research to try to prove the Earth was a globe and found out it is far from dumb. And if you're still on that wavelength of understanding that it isn't a dumb conversation, you're nowhere close to the truth. You're nowhere close to the truth. So just humble yourself, be honest, seek the truth diligently, and then you will be good to go, right? And people will be more than happy to help you answer your questions. They want you to come over here and know the truth. That's our whole thing. We want everyone to wake up and realize we've been lied to so we can get our power back. But just be respectful. Don't expect to be able to just hurl insults and attack people and that people are just going to love you and be real nice and just keep letting you do it. Because the irony is that, you're projecting your own intellectual insecurity. So be honest. You know nothing about it. It's okay. All the flat earthers know everything about it, right? So you should be real here. Just look into it. There's your little beginner's crash course. I love you guys. I'm going to go grab something to eat. Phone's about to die. Peace out. Much love. I know I speak fast. I'm sorry. It's just like what I do. So I love you guys. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So strong people don't care what weak people think. Intelligent people don't care what dumb people think. Informed people don't care what ignorant people think. Stand tall and seek and speak the truth regardless of ostracism or any type of attack or pressure from society. It doesn't matter, right? The weak always do that. So just stand tall for the truth, and actually, whenever they revile you for his name's sake, rejoice, for they did it to all the prophets before you. Peace out.